In the summer of 2019, my friends and I, Sophia, Luca, his younger brother Nico, Nico's girlfriend Lena, and me, planned a weekend trip in Germany's Black Forest. We were all in our early 20s, fresh out of university, and desperate to disconnect. We chose a remote spot deep in the woods, where the trees towered like ancient sentinels. The air smelled of moss and damp earth, and no phone signal reached for kilometers. The first night was normal. We hiked in, set up camp near a small creek, built a fire, and grilled sausages. We told stories, drank beer, and stayed up late under the stars. The forest was peaceful until the second night. Around midnight, Luca stiffened and pointed into the trees. "Did you see that?" We all looked, but nothing was there. He swore he saw movement, a figure darting behind an oak. Nico laughed it off, saying it was just a deer. But 20 minutes later, a loud snap echoed from the same direction. Sophia, visibly shaken, suggested we sleep. We doused the fire and zipped up the tents. That night, I woke to something that still chills me, breathing just outside my tent. Slow, raspy, like an old smoker struggling for air. I froze. It could have been one of my friends, but I heard no footsteps, no zippers, just that wet, labored breathing. It circled the tent, then stopped. I stayed silent, praying it was just my imagination. At breakfast, Luca looked pale. "Someone was outside my tent last night." Lena nodded, she'd heard it too. They walked around more than once. I asked if anyone had gotten up. Nico admitted he went to pee at 4 a.m., but swore he saw a crouched figure near the fire. We searched the campsite. Barefoot footprints circled our tents, leading into the woods. That night, we stayed up, jumpy, around a roaring fire. At 2 a.m., leaves crunched. Then a whisper, too low to understand. Luca flicked on his flashlight. For a split second, we saw him, a naked man, crouched like an animal before he vanished into the trees. We were too scared to separate. Hours later, a voice from the darkness hissed, "I see you." Then my tent zipper started moving. I screamed. My friends screamed. The intruder fled. We didn't sleep. Dawn, we ran. At the ranger station, the officer sighed. "We've had reports. People living out there. Some say they steal. Others say worse." We laughed nervously in the car. But I'll never camp again, not after the zipper.
I used to live on the fourth floor of an old apartment building in a small industrial town. My place was simple but clean, and the only window in my room overlooked a narrow inner courtyard, where I could clearly see into other apartments. I never paid much attention to my neighbors, but I noticed that the apartment across from mine was always dark. When I asked around, people told me it had been abandoned for years. Then one day, while hanging laundry on my balcony, I saw a flicker of light behind its dusty window. I thought I imagined it, until the next day, when I spotted the silhouette of a man standing behind the closed curtains. He wasn't moving, just staring directly at me. I tried to ignore it, but a week later, I started hearing soft, scratching noises from the shared wall. It sounded like someone was digging through concrete at night. I went to the building manager, but they insisted the apartment was locked and empty. In fact, they told me the last tenant, an old man, had died alone in there 10 years ago. I decided to check myself. One rainy night, I crept to its door and found it slightly ajar. Inside, the apartment was covered in dust and filled with old furniture, but something was off. Every clock was frozen at 3:07 a.m., the exact time the old man had died, as I later learned. On the table lay an old photograph of me, no idea how it got there. And in the room facing my window, there was a wooden chair placed right in front of the glass, its seat worn down from constant use, as if someone sat there every night, watching me. I ran out and called the police, but when they searched the place, the photo and chair were gone. They said the apartment was exactly as it should be, empty and locked. I moved out the next day, but sometimes when I pass that building, I still see the curtains twitch in that window, as if the old man never left. In 2001, there was a man named David and his wife Emma who were looking for a house as quickly as possible and at the cheapest price until they met a real estate agent who gave them the apartment of their dreams. Emma and David thought they'd found their dream home, a secluded two-story house nestled deep in the woods, far from the noise of the city. The price was suspiciously low, but the real estate agent brushed off their concerns with a forced smile. The previous owners just wanted a quick sale, she said. The first night, Emma woke up to the sound of scratching, like fingernails dragging against the bedroom window. David checked, but found nothing. The next morning, a single muddy footprint stained the porch. A week later, the first letter arrived. No postmark, no return address, just a single line in jagged handwriting. "I'll watch you sleep. You look peaceful." Emma's hand shook. David dismissed it as a prank, but the letters kept coming. "Your blue curtains are ugly. I like the red ones better." David snores. "Do you ever want to silence him?" Worse, the letters mentioned things no outsider could know. The broken locket in Emma's drawer. The argument they'd had in the shower. Paranoia gnawed at Emma. She tore the house apart and found it. A tiny camera tucked behind the bathroom mirror, its red light blinking. David ripped it out, face pale. "We're calling the police." But that night, the power went out. In the pitch black, Emma's phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have removed my eyes." The bedroom door creaked open. They fled to a motel, but the messages followed. The police found nothing. Then, an email arrived, a link to a live feed. Their house, empty until a shadowy figure slid into frame, tilting its head at the camera. David returned alone, armed. In the attic, he found piles of their discarded mail, photos of them sleeping, and a hole in the wall, just wide enough for someone to watch. A floorboard groaned behind him. Emma heard David scream through the phone. The line went dead. When police arrived, the house was empty, except for a note on the bed. "Now I'm watching from inside you." Months later, Emma, hollow-eyed, moved cities. But every night, her phone lights up with the same words. "Turn around. You should vet new locations thoroughly. Check for hidden cameras in vents, mirrors, and smoke detectors. Secure your Wi-Fi network. Change default passwords. Hackers can access smart devices. Trust your instincts. If something feels off, leave." Privacy isn't paranoia when the threat is real. Some surveillance doesn't need technology. They just exist.